Okay, so the carnival season is fast approaching. We've gotten a sit-down interview with the NCC chairman, Mr. Kenny De Silva. Of course, we're going to find out from him what is happening and how we can look forward to Carnival 2016. Mr. De Silva, Carnival 2016, very short season coming up. But before we get into that, this is your third time at the helm of the NCC.
No, actually, it's 8 times.
8 times.
Your math is not too good.
My math, yeah, I definitely have a problem.
It's 8 times, as chairman.
As chairman.
8 years.
You really love this job?
I do. I do very much. I've been doing a long time. I've been in Carnival a long time. And I enjoy the management of Carnival primarily. It challenges your mind and your physical being. I enjoy that. And not at this age I enjoy it as much as I did before when I was younger. But I still enjoy it. And I'm here really basically for 2 years. And beyond, after that, I move on permanently.
This is your last?
Yes, definitely. I'm now 67 years of age. My focus now is primarily golf and grandchildren. Not necessarily in that order. Basically, that's it.
Good to clarify that one, not necessarily in that order. All right. Yeah. What differently do you plan to do this time around? This is your final run as chairman of the NCC.
Well, there is very little you can do differently because the board has just come in and the things would already been in place. You can't turn it over. One thing we're looking at, which we got the board to sign off on, is that among the mix of components in Carnival, the Carnival vendor is perhaps perceived to be at the lowest rung of the ladder. And justifiably to the vendor at Carnival time, that perhaps is his or her biggest payday, Carnival time. So we looked at the possibilities in terms of the location of the vendors' booths at the Queen's Park Savannah, starting in the east at Memorial Park and finishing somewhere in the west by the paddock area, is that we do something with that strip. So we have decided that we are going to light all the big trees that we are permitted to light by the Savannah Management Committee. There's some trees you can light and some you can't light along that entire strip with white lights, these huge trees, to brighten the area. We are going to be putting up banners, and we have put a theme to the strip. We call it the market strip, because you have different types of food and you also have craft. So we're going to identify that strip of road as the market strip. We are going to engage the minister in some sort of formal opening. We want to stop the traffic, and that evening we want to make a statement to the vendors and the small entrepreneurs in Carnival. They stop it for cycling, so they could stop it for an hour or half an hour for that event, and the minister will make some sort of statement about the value in vending in Carnival, and maybe a ribbon cutting exercise, and we'll turn on the lights then. And that will remain like that for the duration the vendors being there. The intention of the board was to sort of recreate our Peter Avenue, where I'm certainly lying every Friday, Saturday into the wee hours of the morning.
I'll take that.
You know, so we think this is going to make, and we're placing more emphasis, or greater emphasis, on how the booths are painted. You know, they were done in previous years not in the manner, they look quite tacky. We can't rebuild them, we don't have the time and we don't have the funds. So it's to do the best paint job with the assistance from the paint companies to make it look presentable. I must put on record that the lights have been put up free of charge by TM Tech, and we will not have to pay for current, and we're trying to get the lights donated also. So it will not be a cost to the National Carnival Commission. So we want to thank those people.
We talk about that, but when are we looking exactly at opening or launching this market strip?
A date has to be defined, and that will be soon. We don't want to do anything before Christmas because we don't want to light before Christmas, so it seems as though we celebrated Christmas, which is, we all celebrate Christmas, but it must be specifically for Carnival and the vendors, so we're looking at that.
Understandably so. And this would have come out with suggestions from vendors, or this is
No, actually, I am the culprit.
the culprit behind it?
Yeah. And that's an easy way to put it.
You it is. You the culprit. But it's an interesting concept, I must say. I like the idea because I'm already visualizing what this trip will look like.
It's going to be beautiful, I'm sure that. You know, it's just something. We had a tour of the savannah to identify with the Vendors Association where the booths would be placed and how many, not to impede the parade in any way, and also the people have the fullest level of access to the vendors. And the ideas came up and everybody accepted it and we ran with it.
So you've had this discussion already with the vendors?
After I put in the idea.
After?
Yes, yeah.
And they're all for the idea?
Oh, certainly is going to embellish significantly what they're doing. And they'll have an attraction for families to walk. You know, I think it'll be a lovely area.
We look forward to see that.
And there's no cost really significant or otherwise to the Commission so far.
We talk about attaching costs to that. But a very important question comes up: the Carnival budget for 2016.
The Carnival budget has been cut significantly over this year's budget, 2015, by approximately $80 million. And I think most people will be sensitive to why that is so, because the government has to wrestle, hopefully successfully, with a deficit of $21 billion in terms of when you look at the projections of revenue as opposed to expenditure. That is a very, very big challenge for the government, and we have to cut all over. As a business person, I have a business background. A business lad is in bankruptcy. You can't. It is going to be tough, but it can be managed. Any situation can be managed with a level of prudence.
With a cut of $80 million, where are some of the areas that it cuts?
Well, all the groups got less money to start with, about 20% less, which they have to live with. What we have to attempt to do is try to generate more income at the gates, because Carnival is not going in the direction as previous years, which is a bit unfortunate. I'm speaking in a personal capacity, not only as chairman, is that you have some bands in the west and then you have bands in the east. I think Carnival is for everybody, and we should only have one route. So we hope that we will be able to persuade. I have sat and talked with Mr. Dean Akin in terms of bringing back, you know, the Bliss and the Tribe back into the Queen's Park Savannah, which will energize the Savannah again. And we are optimistic that we will see wisdom in that, and he said he will give it consideration. It's not a sign-off, let me make that clear, but we'd love to get him back.
You speak about getting them back, and which kind of jumped ahead of my program, but we're talking about having people pass through the stage, which everyone wants to trample, run across the stage.
I want to stay in it, that's the problem.
Once you put on your Carnival costume. But the issue of filling those stands, because I was there for Carnival Tuesday, and
yeah, nobody.
It basically wasn't.
You didn't have the energy, and I wasn't here. I go away. When I don't work in Carnival, I go away. All right, I just disappear and I go away. But I understand, from my understanding, the stands won't fill for a number of the shows. So we have to revisit some of those shows. But I wouldn't want to disclose that before I talk to the components of Carnival, the interest groups, because they have their own direction, and we have to try to come to some sort of compromise in terms of rebuilding the shows. I think they're too long. That's a personal opinion. I wouldn't want to sit until 5 o'clock in the morning to hear the results of Panorama. I think they should be tighter. I think there should be fewer bands in the final. I think things go too long and people get bored. One of the best Dimash Grass shows I've seen in my life was in 1973, where you had all components of Carnival, Mass, Pan, and Calypso. And you got the results by 20 to 12 in the evening. You had 6 bands, steel bands, 8 kings, 8 queens, and it was produced by Arthur Bentley with the opening production. And you had everything in place by 20 to 12, including the results. You must leave people wanting more. See, I think I've been to theatre in New York and England and so on. When you leave the theatre, you say, Christ, I could have seen a little more. You know, it's 10:30 only night, but you take your companion or friend, and you go and you have a nightcap and discuss the show. And I know Carnival is different, but I'm giving my personal opinion. It's too long.
That's fine.
You know, you could have shows that go long. Calypso Fiesta, whole day, that's fine. You understand? And then you have the attendant challenges of with crime. You know, to get home, people are concerned about getting out and getting back in. That is the issue also. It has to be addressed at another forum.
Talk about meeting with all stakeholders. Is it going to be one general meeting you have with all stakeholders involved in Carnival? Or is it that you're going to meet with them separately? And
Well, it'll be everybody, because you want ideas from everybody, as many as we can get on board to buy into the ideas that the board has in terms of raising the bar for Carnival 2016. All we could is to persuade, you know, try to persuade. We can't dictate to the interest groups. They run their own shows, but we could use moral suasion and be optimistic that will work.
You have a date in mind for this meeting?
Well, the next board meeting I'm going to raise. I need to get a sign off by Friday on a certain situation that will shine the light as to the way forward, what I take to the board. I'm never a person to sit down and just go through the motions of what they did before, so do it over. So whatever you do, try to do it a little better or differently, or add something before you leave.
A few years ago, there was the issue with wanting to switch the routes, and this was at the NCBA, and particularly the concern was over the children's parade, and the area in which they were passing was heavily. There's a heavy wind that comes down that strip that would have affected the children going.
Right, they wanted to start downtown and one said Adam Sitzka. That is not going to happen again. The National Carnival Commission, according to the Act, has the remit to do Carnival, period. We don't want to enforce that.
But if it comes to it?
If it comes to it, we'll have to. Because, unfortunately or fortunately, whatever happens in Carnival, there's only one person they blame. Either the NCC or the NCC chairman. And it's like that. Nobody else. The buck stops with the National Carnival Commission.
They say once you're at the top, you're out there alone. Damned if you don't.
Yes, I better do and be damned than not do and be damned.
That's we started talking about the budget earlier.
Yeah.
You said it was 80 million short.
I mean, it less than last year. I would say short. It was less. And that is approximately, give or take, a couple of dollars. And that is understandable. You have to, everybody has to, you're down to bone almost, you know what I mean? And we have to show responsibility for that.
Off the top of my head, I can't remember last year's figure.
Well, last year was over 300, I think 317 or 300, somewhere around there. This year is 200 and odd million plus.
With this reduction, do you think that some of the groups may want to pull out or individuals pull out from any of the events?
I don't think so. What we're doing too is negotiating with suppliers of Carnival, which takes a major part of the budget. And they have been very amenable because these suppliers in Carnival are long-term suppliers. They've been here for several years. And there's something, we're not doing the village again, the Carnival village. So that cost about, I think, 12 or 15 million last year. We don't have the money to do it. It was useful, it is necessary, but you don't have the money. And if you don't have the money, you can't do it.
So what are the elements we may miss? The Carnival, as you said, is not good.
That's the only one I think you're going to miss. And then we're working with the suppliers where we're asking them to work with us in terms of reducing their costs for what supplies they provide for Carnival. And they have been very, very receptive.
That's good news coming up.
Yeah, some people are giving a third off for the same service they gave last year. That's remarkable, because they have been long-term suppliers. They have made money at Carnival.
Interesting. And as we kind of wind down the minutes on this interview, two issues come up. Photography and broadcast rights, the fees. Photographers have been saying that they pay high fees to get licensing to shoot Carnival events.
Well, that has to be discussed at board level, because what apparently happened since I last was here is the groups have that responsibility in terms of what they charge. So Mars would issue passes, Pan would issue similarly, Calypso and stuff like that. I'm not sure how that works, because you have to control in numbers that get into a venue and how that happens. So I haven't been exposed to that as yet. But before, the NCC was responsible for the rights of Carnival. I'm not saying we're going to go back there. I want to see how things worked in the past years. But the rights, we were able to go out there, the National Carnival Commission, and sell the rights for Carnival. CNMG was the first one to buy broadcast television rights for Carnival. I remember what year it was. Many years ago when I was chairman. And the figure was 1.3 million we got for the rights. I don't know what they get now, and if it's ever happened since then, I don't know.
Was that going to be looked at?
Yes, of course. Yeah, so you could take it back to your principals, say they could come and we're going to put it out for tender. And I think the CNMG particularly has a national responsibility to the population of Trinidad and Tobago to get the Carnival on the television, so people who can't make it to the Carnival, the ill or remote areas of Trinidad and Tobago, just get out. We'll have opportunity to see what Carnival